Welcome in. It is a Jake Asman Show YouTube special. This is not on the radio. This is exclusively to YouTube. We're going to be answering your questions about the NFL draft, the NFL offseason. We'll play a little mock draft game with you. I'm going to do a lot. I couldn't do this alone, though. I had to bring on one of my good friends in this business. He is an AP award-winning journalist. He is a Heisman Trophy voter. He covers Ole Miss, Mississippi football, Alabama football, basically the entire SEC. So he is the perfect guy to join the show and help answer your questions on the draft and everything else. He is John Sokoloff. John, good afternoon, my friend. How you doing?
Jake, it's been so long since we've spoken. I'm great. I wore my Ultimate Hoop shirt for you. I figured you'd appreciate it, and yeah, things are going well.
We have a lot to talk about. I suspect people will start to join and write in some questions as we're on the air here. But let's kind of start big picture, right? We know the NFL draft order. We've known it for months. Looking at how you think the top five will play out, we'll start there. I'm guessing you have Trevor Lawrence going one. That's assumed. Now the Jets are on the clock. How do you see it unfolding with the second overall pick?
Ooh, second overall, The only reason that I'm just undoubtedly going Zach Wilson, not only from when I watched him in college, but I feel like this is like the main year where NFL teams are just kind of shoving flaws aside and just being like, oh, well, and using the COVID excuse. Because Zach Wilson's flawed like any other prospect, but any of these guys that are big and have the accuracy like they do and the arm that they do, they're going to get the attention of teams like this. So, it's not even just the Jets. Like, there are a bunch of other teams that tried to move up to get him, but it seems like the Jets are pretty much staying put at number two. So I'd probably say Wilson at that second pick for sure.
So you're going Wilson at two.
I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for a while, and I've spent so much time talking about this, all the signs are quarterback at two. And if you kind of connect the dots to what happened last week with the Niners going to three, I think it's because they have intel on what the Jets are doing at two. And then the report comes out, well, the Eagles tried to move up to three if they could get Zach Wilson. Well, they can't get Zach Wilson because he's going number two to the Jets. So I think if you connect the dots, Wilson to the Jets makes sense. Now we get to the third pick, though, and I'm curious what your take is on this, because on the radio, I've been all over the place with this. Originally, I thought, oh, they moved up. They're going to take Trey Lance and have him sit behind Jimmy G for a year, and that could be like a Mahomes and Alex Smith, scenario playing out all over again. But now there's a lot of love for Mac Jones, a lot of speculation he could be the guy at number three. Also, after his pro day yesterday, amazing how now Justin Fields is all of a sudden a good quarterback again, which is just nuts how people were so down on the guy over a bad game against Northwestern. Stupid, but you get the point. The Niners have plenty of options at number three, and the draft, to me, John, it really starts with what San Fran does, because I think we know what the Jaguars are doing, and what the Jets are doing. But San Fran at three could go a variety of different ways. How do you see that playing out?
Well, I think San Francisco, I don't think three was just a random number. I think they tried to get up as high as they could, if I had to guess. And I'm sure everyone and their mother knows that the Jags are staying put with Lawrence. And I don't know how much this was reported and to what extent it was reported, but I'm sure they called the Jets at number two, right? Like, they had to have called them. Did you hear anything about that?
So, here's the thing. Shanahan has a relationship with Saleh. Douglas has a relationship with Lynch. Even if there wasn't a formal call that was made, they know what the other team is doing there. Like, if they wanted to get the two, you call the Jaguars, they say no. Then you call the Jets, if they say no, then you go to the Miami Dolphins sitting there with the third pick. So the whole idea that they didn't call the Jets is nuts. They obviously called the Jets through back channels or just Saleh texting Shanahan and vice versa. So definitely.
Yeah, so, they have to know that, okay, I don't know, man. Like, this third pick is going to be so interesting because Lance and Fields, what do you have? You have two guys that are both huge, that both run really well, and they're both unbelievable when it comes to deep ball accuracy. But then on the other end, it just depends on how these kind of workouts go, how the pro days go. Justin Fields' pro day went great. how the interviews go, all those virtual interviews. These teams love to do their full-blown expanded due diligence. And when you look at a team like the 49ers, they mortgaged a lot of their future 2 first-round picks to get up there. They're going to want to make sure that they get it right. I just think that when you look at 2 guys like that are just have such high ceilings, it's going to be a little bit difficult to kind of separate it. But, I mean, at the end of the day, Justin Fields is playing against some of the best defenses in the country, even though they only played in 6 games. And on the other side, you have Trey Lance, who hasn't played since, 2019? It was at North Dakota State. I think they're going to go Fields here. I think they should. I think he'd fit what they do. I think Ryan Day is a different kind of animal in terms of getting these guys ready for the NFL level. Not that Urban's not, but Justin Fields can completely run the Shanahan offense, and the fact that he can run and he's unbelievably athletic like he is can only expand that. And, I mean, everybody loves talking about the Clemson game where he had how many bruised or broken or whatever with the ribs issue, and he came back from that. So they got to go Fields there, I think. It just makes too much sense from a fit standpoint, and the guys won at such a big stage.
Explain to me, John, and I'm glad you brought up the Clemson game because that's where I'm going. It's like, oh, Fields, 41 touchdowns, 3 picks as a sophomore. His junior year, Ohio State's one of the best teams in the country. They only play 8 games. His numbers statistically aren't as good as they were. But we're making too much of, he didn't play that great against Northwestern when 20 guys on his team, including his best receiver, were out with COVID. And then for people to act like Trey Lance, like it was not good at football all of a sudden, even after he had a 6-touchdown performance with busted ribs against Clemson, a team loaded with NFL guys in a playoff game, for like people to act like up until really yesterday that Justin Fields is going to be like the 5th guy taken and he's not any good. I said this on radio this morning. He's going to end up being the steal of the draft. I mean, some of the things we're saying about Fields, people said about Justin Herbert. His senior year wasn't as good as his junior year. And, I don't know. And how's that working out with Justin Herbert so far? Like, too many NFL teams just overthink it. Fields looks like a real player to me. And if the Niners take him at 3, I think he's going to be a star for them. I think he'd be great in that Shanahan offense.
Dude, he really will be. And it's just the fact that I think people are higher on him because they're not only did they see the Clemson game, not only did they see, him putting the whole team on his back in a game that nobody expected them to win. Nobody did. I didn't pick them. I picked Clemson to win that game. So the fact that they had that, along with now, I think people are just starting to romantically fall in love with where he's going. And they think that'll catapult him to success. Because at first, everyone's thinking, okay, Lawrence Fields. Okay, well, Lawrence going to go number 1. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, Fields number 2 to the Jets. Is he going to flame out there? Is it going to be another Darnold deal? I don't know. Now all the rumors circulating about Wilson, and now you got Fields, who was projected to go to San Francisco with one of the best offensive minds in football. I think people are falling in love with kind of the situation, and they think that since he's going to be more set up for success, he's going to have more success. I think that's what people think about. Justin Fields has been great all year. People love to look at the Northwestern game, and they love to look at the Indiana game this year, where the reality is you got to kind of be in his corner a little bit. The guy only played at that point, only a few games heading into those ones. You played an Indiana team that was top 10 in the country. I watched that whole entire game, every single play. Yeah, he made a couple bonehead moves when he was under a ton of pressure, but what young player doesn't? And then the Northwestern game, that's another top defense in the country. Also, along with dealing with COVID every single day, and they didn't know if they were going to play that Saturday or not. So, but to make a long answer short, I think people are just falling in love with the situation, and they just want to see him in San Fran because they know he'll thrive with Kyle in that offense.
It's interesting, right? So let's say, for the sake of this mock we're doing, it goes Lawrence, Wilson, and then you're sitting there with the Niners at 3. Let's say they take Justin Fields. What the Falcons do at 4 is fascinating. Because you could have a scenario where they go quarterback. They certainly have committed to Matt Ryan for this year, restructuring his contract. So if the Falcons are sitting there at 4, and you could draft Trey Lance and sit him behind Matt Ryan for a year, maybe 2 years, if Matt Ryan's still playing at a high level, you could do that. Or if you're the Falcons, you could trade out of that pick. You have holes all over your roster. You still have Matt Ryan at quarterback, so you're going to want to try and go for it and win with Arthur Smith being there. in year one. What the Falcons do at number 4 is wide open, and it's fascinating. And honestly, John, I can make a case for either one. I could say you're never going to be picking that high again. Get the quarterback now. And I could say, well, you know what? You have an MVP quarterback in Matt Ryan. Try and win with them. Trade down, get more picks, fill some holes, and try and be good in 2021. What would you do if you were the Falcons and you had the 4th pick?
I think Matt Ryan is dealing with an absolute dumpster fire of an organization the last few years, and now they're completely cleaning house. They fired Dan Quinn 5 games into the season. Their GM, they got a new regime going on there, and the guy still had 26 touchdowns, 11 picks, and he threw for 4,500 yards with that team. He's still got a lot of juice left in the tank. Now, it just depends on what this regime in Atlanta wants to do. They're only going to do 2 things here. They're either trading back or they're taking Trey Lance. I don't see much of it in between. The only small window that may be open is if they love Kyle Pitts so much and they see him as a guy that can be a franchise-changing guy that even open up this offense more and help them exponentially with any of these schemes from a blocking or receiving perspective, then maybe they take him 4. I mean, his pro day just wrapped up. I think he ran a 4.4 40-yard dash as a tight end. That's really good. So they're either going to trade back or take Trey Lance, and there's an outside shot. I think they're going to take Kyle Pitts. If I'm them, I mean, everybody knows that Carolina wants a QB. Why don't you just trade back with them? They'll give you probably 1 or 2 number ones to get up there to get them, I think.
I think you're right. They have a lot of options. I mean, you could make the case for trading down. You can make the case, get your quarterback now, plan for your future. And you can make the case Kyle Pitts is so damn good. Just get him. He's going to be electric in that offense with Julio Jones and all the other weapons they still have, obviously, with Calvin Ridley there in that offense. So a lot of options for Atlanta. We'll pause the mock for a moment. I want to take some questions and comments for people that have tuned in on YouTube. This first one here, John, comes in from A-Bear and Chess. He writes in, I'm honestly worried about Wilson's health. I'm afraid he will be injury prone. I like Fields because of his toughness. Not saying Zach isn't, but he seems like he gets hurt a lot. See, the question you have with Wilson is what he was in 2019. He's clearly gotten better from them. Like, don't discount a guy putting in the effort and putting in the time and improving. But yeah, I mean, you look at Zach Wilson, and he did miss some time in 2019. So that would be a concern. I think what's probably surprised a lot of people, most Jet fans, Zach Wilson weighed a pound more than Trevor Lawrence. Like, you watch Zach Wilson, you watch Trevor Lawrence, you probably think Lawrence is way bigger, but Zach Wilson actually weighed a pound more than Trevor Lawrence, which is random, but I found that to be fascinating, John.
It's because he looks so young. Zach Wilson looks like he's...
he looks like you when you shave.
Yeah, he looks like me when I shave. He looks like a kid that's, that's in geometry that needs to learn his proofs for his test tomorrow. That dude has one of the biggest baby faces I've seen. You know who the only one who has a bigger baby face than him is? Drew Lock. I look at Drew Lock and it looks like he should be like, starting at quarterback for your Syosset Braves. Come on. But but I mean, that's why that people think so. It's because he looks younger. But the reality is I know a bunch of people that voted for Zach Wilson on the Heisman ballot, and not many did for Fields. Now it's probably because, again, he played way less games. But Wilson he's shown what he can do on there. And I don't think I don't think people should really look at what he is right now. All these NFL teams are kind of falling in love with the potential. And I think the health thing will be fine. I mean, he played this season.
I'm with you there. So if you want to write in a question, anything draft related, off-season related, John covers college football. If you're just tuning in, John Sokoloff, AP award-winning journalist, has a Heisman Trophy vote, so he knows the sport as well as anyone. Great guy to have on to talk Jets, talk Niners, talk NFL draft in general. We last left off in kind of this mock to the top picks of the draft with the Falcons at 4. So many options. If they don't go quarterback, I agree with you. I think it's Pitts. I think there could be a trade candidate. One scenario I want to throw out there at you, John, because I could see it going either way. Let's say Carolina wants a quarterback. I have long thought, well, there'd be no way Atlanta would ever do a trade with Carolina because they're in the same division. But then I started thinking, well, maybe they would, but you just charge Atlanta a premium. You call it an in-division premium. You say, all right, if you want to get your quarterback, we're gonna charge you double what it would take under normal circumstances to move up 4 picks from 8 to 4. So that's another scenario we haven't addressed. Do you see that as a possibility, or do you think in-division trade, no way would that ever happen?
I think you got to kind of when it comes to taking on that amount of capital, I think the whole whatever rivalry there is or any form of animosity on that end needs to just be thrown out the window. The Falcons are in such a unique spot because they could, since San Francisco traded up, that was the best thing that ever happened to Atlanta because now they are the last chance. If a team wants Trey Lance, it's going to go through Atlanta. And now what the 49ers have done for the Falcons, they've created a bidding war for them. If, let's say, I don't know, let's say if the Pats wanted to trade up or the Panthers or maybe even like Pittsburgh wants a QB or any of these teams want to shoot up to get it, the road is through Atlanta. So I would be surprised if Atlanta doesn't get 2 first-round picks for number 4 along with the swap. And I think Carolina would be the front runner to make a move like that.
I'll give you another scenario too. We could actually have 5 quarterbacks go in a row to start the draft. I know we talked about 3, and we know that there's going to be 3 with, Lawrence, likely Wilson, and then either Fields or Jones. Someone's going 3, Trey Lance, all that. But how about 4 if Atlanta takes a quarterback? And what if this scenario happens? Atlanta goes quarterback at 4, Cincinnati's sitting there at 5. What if they're like, yeah, we could take Penei Sewell, we could take Kyle Pitts, we could take Jamar Chase, or we could trade back to 8, and if Carolina wants Mac Jones or whoever the quarterback that's left, what if they move up to 5 just to make sure they get their guy? And then you have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 consecutive quarterbacks to start off the NFL draft. I know it's unlikely because it's never happened, but there is a scenario where the demand for quarterbacks is so great. It'd be crazy, but it is a possibility when you consider the needs for quarterbacks of some of these teams that aren't in position to necessarily get one with their own pick.
I think that's a good point, but here's the problem. Like, I don't think teams are going to be sitting there and just think, okay, fine. Let's give up 2 first-round picks and move up to 4. Or let's give up move up to 5 and maybe get Lance. I think when it comes to a move of that magnitude, you either need to be really kind of all in or all out. And if you're moving up like that, you're going to want to trade up to 4 to ensure that you're getting him. Because if you move up to 5, another team will probably end up trading up and move up to 4 to get him. But who knows? Maybe Atlanta goes with Sewell and likes him, and then that 5 spot is open and a team makes an impulse trade. You never really know. That's why I love the draft.
The draft it's the best. It really is. It gives you so much content. And since, I moved to Houston and started doing a national radio show, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, football is the constant, man. There's, you care about what every team's doing. It impacts everyone else. Like no one cares about a random, Brewers Pirates game in MLB, but those same 2 teams in football are the Packers and the Steelers, and you care about what they do and everything. So football is the best. Football.
Do you remember the draft a year ago? I was like, that was the first sporting event since then March 11th or 12th or whatever the day was. That was the first sporting event to happen. So the fact that it happened in the way it was, like it was so monumental, and it was kind of like just the start of pro sports really showing, okay, we're going to really like bulldoze through this thing, and we're going to power through and play through, and we're not just going to kind of sit down and fold. We're going to make as much happen as we can for the fans. So it was great to see the NFL actually pulling that off. I remember watching all the days of that and just being glued to the TV because there was no other sports at the time.
Absolutely. All right, John. So for those just tuning in, you've seen a lot of these quarterbacks up close in person. You have a Heisman Trophy vote, so you have evaluated Zach Wilson. You've evaluated Justin Fields. You watched Mac Jones a lot in the SEC. If you're looking at these quarterbacks, like what do you like? What do you dislike about the guys coming out? I know you're high on Lawrence, who isn't, but you talked about Wilson a little earlier, but how would you kind of rank your quarterbacks if you were kind of breaking it down for everyone tuning in?
Well, I mean, I think the top 4 are the top 4, and then it's just a massive drop-off. I think that's what it is. I mean, I think personally, Trevor Lawrence, and maybe this goes all the way back to when he won a national championship in, what year was it, 2018?
True freshman.
2018 season when he was a freshman. Yeah, they had the Kelly Bryant deal, and then he was kind of in there, and he won it all. Trevor Lawrence is the most sure thing since Andrew Luck, and I think him going to a guy like Urban that'll take care of him in that regard, he's the most sure thing. So it's got to be him, and then Wilson and Fields and Lance. And I don't think there's that much of a difference between those 3. It's like the top tier with Lawrence, and then tier 2 of those 3 guys who are all going to be very serviceable and good. And then there's a big drop off. And then I think that's where a guy like Mac Jones comes in. And to be completely honest with you, I don't even really think, I think I voted for Mac Jones. I think I actually even voted for him 3rd in the Heisman this year, but I don't think there's that much of a drop off between him and Kyle Trask, honestly. And I hate to punish a kid just because the rest of his team was so good. But I mean, it's not like Alabama ever needed to just be like, okay, Mac, like, here's the keys. We need you to get us out of trouble. He had a 1,500-yard rusher who had scored 26 touchdowns. He had a Heisman winner at receiver. He had a defense that has multiple guys going in the first round. Surtan's a guy that everyone loves. So I hate to punish him because the rest of his team was so good and his numbers were through the roof. But I think the learning curve for him is going to be so big. And it's not like he did anything that was just so overwhelming where I'm going to think, wow, like this guy is going to really grab this team by the horns and really run with this thing.
Couple things for you on Mac Jones. No one said it about Joe Burrow, though, and his one-year wonder. Like, what Burrow was throwing to loaded guys, too. I don't know. Sure. I think it's because Mac plays at Bama and Nick Saban's established being what Nick Saban brings and what Alabama football is, that I think it does get used against Mac Jones just a bit. So that's one thing I'll say. The other is Albert White writes in, and he's calling out you, John. Heisman voter, huh?
Huh. Albert? No. Yeah, just because
explain the process of being a Heisman voter, because I'm sure a lot of people are interested how you apply, how many years you got to be covering college football to actually get a vote.
There's just like different regions, you know? So there's different regions for people, like there's a South region, whatever, and people run it, and the head of each one reaches out to each person that they want to do it, and then, you know, right when the season kind of wraps up, they just send you the poll and you send your vote, and then you can say who you voted for after the Heisman winner is announced.
John, let's test your draft knowledge here. Ryan writes in, Ryan Kramer, thanks for watching, Ryan. I like Jalen Darden as a potential late-round diamond wide receiver prospect. He has such incredible shiftiness, and he never seems to take a square hit from a defender. John, any sleeper wide receiver you like late?
I mean, there's just a bunch of guys that
it's a loaded class.
Every year that you could just take late. And I think that's why some of these guys end up getting taken late. And there's so many things that these teams hold into incredibly high regard. And I'm sure there's some that, like, there's some attributes that don't matter as much that teams put into much higher account. For example, I was at Ole Miss's Pro Day last week, and Elijah Moore going into the day was projected to go probably anywhere from 38th as highest down to second round, late second round, something like that. And then he ran his 40, and some scouts there clocked him at 4.27, but he was 4.32. And now I look at a mock today, and he's going 19th to Washington. Look at last year, Jake, too. Jalen Reagor with the Eagles was projected to go much later. He went round 1. There are so many guys that end up going much later, much earlier. It's really hard to tell. But when it comes to Darden, I mean, a lot of these guys, I don't know, man. I mean, it's interesting. And UNT, I've got a lot of respect for what Seth Luttrell has done there at UNT. And it's just so hard to kind of compare the workload for guys there with what players have done at higher like caliber conferences. But I think he could come into the NFL and be very solid very shortly after he's in there. I know it was tougher on these conferences even more than the Power Fives this year. But a guy like Darden, I mean, the guy was an unreal red zone threat, especially at his size too, at 1,200 yards, 19 touchdowns. Definitely took a big leap up. It'll just depend on what those numbers are, because I've seen guys that are different sizes, but that have monster seasons in college. But when they run a 40, if they're a little slower, then teams don't even look at them and teams won't even draft them. So it really just depends on that. But the dude had a ton of consistency at UNT last season, that's for sure. And I'm sure NFL teams will look at that.
I've been following him because he's from Houston, where I now live. So I'm rooting for him, and hope whichever team gets him, he has a ton of success. Let's take another YouTube comment or question here as we're going a little rapid fire now. Colin Herbert writes in, I think the Jets are to be determined in regards to the quarterback position. Wilson the favorite, but Fields could have a shot with his second pro day when or if Saleh goes there. I think, Colin, you're right. I don't know if the Jets are 100% taking Wilson, but everything I've heard and everything you see that's kind of been floated out there, they certainly are high on Wilson. All signs point to Wilson. The only thing that could trip up a Zach Wilson Jets draft from happening in my mind is something that comes up with the medicals, something we just don't know that's not out there yet, because there's just been too much smoke connecting the Jets and Wilson for the Jets not to take them. And I keep going back to that Ian Rappaport report from last week that Philadelphia tried to move up to number 3 if they could get Zach Wilson. And when they realized they were not going to be able to get Zach Wilson, they made the trade and moved back and picked up a 1 next year with the Miami Dolphins. And that, to me, is the clearest sign we have that they know that Wilson won't be there at 3 because the Jets are dead set on taking him with the second pick. And notice how all the mock drafts have shifted that way. Daniel Jeremiah, who's connected to Joe Douglas, has shifted that way. Todd McShay, who's connected to Joe Douglas, has shifted that way. If you kind of follow, read through the tea leaves, so to speak, I think there's probably a 95% chance Zach Wilson's a Jet.
Yeah, and that's what all the big guys that are way more connected to that Jets organization are saying compared to others. But there's a big difference, I think, between guys working out and playing and putting up the numbers that they do. There's a big difference between that and also their pro days and their combine, and not just the strength and the speed and those drills. But I think these meetings have really high stock. And when you're a team like the Jets and you're making a second overall pick like that, and you're going to want to do your full-blown due diligence. So maybe they think Wilson's right, but maybe they could have these meetings and these guys could be neck and neck, and Fields could do something in a meeting that would separate himself. That could maybe be a possible, a possible move. I'm not 100% sure, but based on, again, what Rappaport and everything that you just said, it sounds like they like Zach Wilson, and they're not the only team that is like that, especially if they didn't make a trade with San Francisco. It shows that they're kind of pretty set on either taking him or Fields.
I've asked Jet fans to help me come up with a better name for Zach Wilson because I'm not calling him Mormon Mahomes. I just won't put the Mahomes label on the guy. Won't happen.
Are we allowed to say Mormon Mahomes? Is that allowed in 2021?
I don't think that's offensive, is it?
I don't know.
I mean, 2021, you could breathe wrong and someone's going to say that you offended them. So, you never know. But as we're doing the show, I just got a tweet from @JohnSays. He goes, I got a nickname for you for Wilson that will catch some fire. Wall Street Wilson, because his throws are on the money. Wall Street Wilson seems to be the leader in the clubhouse from some Jet fans that I've seen. I've asked Jet fans to tweet me @Jake Asman and follow me there and send in your Wilson nicknames because, I'm not calling him Mormon Mahomes. And we're not doing Broadway Sam. Wall Street Wilson, it's not great, but it's better than Mormon Mahomes at least.
Wall Street Wilson, because his throws are money. That is hysterical. Oh, my God. That's oh, my God.
Also,
that's good.
Albert White says Mormon Mahomes is not offensive. Well, Albert, I don't know if you're a Mormon though. I guess we got to ask a Mormon if they take offense to Zach Wilson being nicknamed Mormon Mahomes. I don't think they would though, because it's a compliment, right? I don't know. People get mad over everything in 2021.
I'm not sure either, man. I mean, there's also it's got to be so hard to actually coin a nickname, I just want to know what really goes into that. And what even is Mahomes' nickname? I don't even think he has one. Does he? Showtime Mahomes?
Yeah, and that's a weird nickname. I don't even like that one. Nah. It just sounds forced. It's got to organically happen.
And you can't give yourself a nickname because then it's not cool. So if Zach Wilson were to go to his Jets opening press conference and say, "Hey guys, can you call me Wall Street Wilson?" No one's going to do it. A nickname just has to organically kind of, percolate. It can't just be, you can't just say it for yourself.
You can't do it. A couple more for you, John. Roberto writes in here. How about ZMW, Zach Mormon Wilson? The problem, Roberto, is that he's not actually Mormon. That's come out. So I don't know if we can call him that, which is another reason why we can't have Mormon Mahomes being the nickname. So
yeah, I don't think I don't think a lot of the BYU donors are going to be very happy about that for Mr. Wilson, that their life's been a lie for those last couple months.
Let's get to a couple more here as we wrap up. I appreciate John giving us 30 minutes of his time. He's on Twitter at John Sokoloff. Follow him there if you're a college football fan. If you just like good reporting, John is great. Big Philadelphia sports fan, but he's also a Vegas Raider fan. So he's kind of all over the place with the NFL and knows exactly what he's talking about. This one's from John. What type of trade package would it take for the Niners to trade up one spot with the Jets? So I don't think this would happen under any circumstance, because if they wanted to trade up with the Jets, they would have just traded right up with the Jets. And now they don't have first-round picks to make another deal. So, unless you're talking about like some of their best players, there's just no way that the Jets would even consider this. I don't know what type of trade package it would take, John, because they don't have the resources to get it done at this point. They don't have first-round picks.
Dude, if they would have traded to number 2, they would have done it by now. That's the whole thing. And maybe, I don't know. Because why would the 49ers just stop at 3? They're like, all right, yeah, let's just trade to 3. No. If they wanted to trade up higher, they would have. I think the same case could probably have been made for the Jets in 2018 when they traded up from 6 to 3. I'm sure they called the Giants, too, to move up to 2. And the price probably wasn't even out there because there was no price. Because
no, they needed to take a running back. They had to do it.
I know. Saquon.
Just crazy. So,
also, this revolving door with top 10 picks in the NFL, top 10 quarterback picks is just absolutely wild. It's a revolving door every year, like a QB or 2. On average, since 2011, 2.2 quarterbacks are taken in the top 10. That math just doesn't add up.
It's hard to find a quarterback. It's an exact science. It's probably the hardest thing to do in professional sports if you think about it. Just know this. At least 50% of these guys that get taken in the first round will end up being busts. That's just how it goes.
Dude, it's more than that, man. I mean, if you look, so right before I came on here, I took a look at all the drafts, and I didn't want to look at 2019 or 20 because it's too fresh. I wanted to keep it a little more recent. So from 2011 to 2013, there have been 17 quarterbacks taken in the top 10. From 2011 to 2018, 17 of them. Guess how many of them are still on their team that they were drafted to?
Say the years one more time.
Okay, so from 2011 to 2018, 17 quarterbacks were taken in the top 10. Guess how many are still on their team?
I don't know if I can think of any right now. I think it might be 0.
It's 3. 3 QBs, and you don't count 19 or 20 just because it's so. And Daniel Jones could be one of these guys that's out too. So from 2018, Darnold and Rosen are gone. Mayfield and Allen stayed. 17, Mitch Trubisky gone. Patrick Mahomes stayed.
Yep.
Everyone else gone. The 3 that are still there, again, Mayfield, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Everyone else gone.
I didn't realize we were counting the 18 class. I got it confused with 19. But to your point, it's the hardest thing to do in professional sports, drafting a franchise quarterback. As great as Trevor Lawrence is, I did this segment on my radio show a couple of weeks ago. If you go, let's just use the last 20 years and look at a time where a quarterback went first overall. How many times over the last 20 years did that quarterback that went number 1 actually end up being the best quarterback from their draft class? You've had some classes where the guy that gets picked in the mid rounds is the best, or the guy at the end of the first round, like Aaron Rodgers in the year Alex Smith got drafted first overall. The year where you had Andrew Luck that went first overall, great, but then he ends up retiring, and RG3 ended up not working out. So there's just no rhyme or reason to what works, what doesn't, and it's just hard, man. It would not shock me at all if Zach Wilson or Justin Fields or Mac Jones or Trey Lance end up being the best player from this class. You just don't know when you draft a quarterback that high.
Especially when you have a lot of them that are just obviously Wilson, Fields, and Lance are different, but they've got some similarities. They're all big guys who have great deep ball accuracy that are going to really get the attention of these teams quickly. So even when I think this year it's as much of a crapshoot as the others, just because of how similar those 3 are. But dude, yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Mitch Trubisky, Jared Winston, Marcus Mariota, Blake Bortles, Andrew Luck, RG3, and Ryan Tannehill. Those 11, and then Cam Newton, Jake Locker, Blaine Gabbert. Those 14, all gone. Now, Luck retired, and in 2013, there were no QBs taken in the top 10. But
imagine that now. That would never happen again.
Dude, what were we doing during the 2013 draft? Are we all just sitting eagerly by our TV, be like, oh, man, is Eric Fisher really going to go number one? Like, no.
You remember what happened that year in 2013, though? I believe the first quarterback taken was the immortal Geno Smith in round 2 by the Jets.
Oh, don't you worry. It was actually E.J. Manuel, 16th overall.
Oh, that was in 13?
Yeah, and
that's right. Okay, you're right. So Emmanuel went first round and then Geno. Yep. Jimbo
Fisher had the best quote about E.J. Manuel. And this is a guy he coached, by the way. Jimbo Fisher, obviously now at A&M. He said, quote, I love E.J. He's got a great work ethic. He just doesn't have the talent. Not what you want to hear if you're a Buffalo Bills fan and E.J. Manuel's taken by Buffalo. E.J. had a couple good Raiders years as a backup, but that's really what he is, a backup.
He's doing this thing as a backup. All right, John, we've gone for a while here, so let's just rapid fire through some nickname stuff. Steve Young reloaded for Zach Wilson.
White guy went to BYU. Let's make the comparison.
Hey, there you go. Here's actually not a bad one. Someone tweeted me this the other day as well. Ryan Kramer writes in, Zach's Fifth Avenue. Not terrible.
Okay. Zach's Fifth Avenue. Yeah, that's not bad.
My stepmom works at Saks Fifth Avenue, so maybe I'd support that one.
Oh, maybe she would too. Wow, look at that. How about this? Zach Wilson. Where does he kind of rank on the handsome rankings? Is he? Would you say he's a handsome guy?
Very handsome. Has a baby face though. I would like to see him maybe kind of grow. I have a baby face too. That's why I started growing out the beard over the last year with the pandemic. You kind of have the baby face a little bit too when you go totally clean shaven. So
definitely do. So, but this brings up the question, and this has been talked about in one of our infamous group chats where I won't give the details about what we talked about because we probably both end up in prison. But if he's handsome enough, he could be Zach Morris, like from Saved by the Bell. Zach Morris, very, very handsome guy. But maybe not enough people would get that. Our one friend said that not enough people watch Saved by the Bell for me to make jokes about it. So,
which is asinine, by the way, because I think if you're over the age of like 20, you probably have seen multiple Saved by the Bell episodes. They're on TV all the time.
Yeah, they're on reruns every day. Definitely.
All right, John. Well, this has been fun. If you're just tuning in, make sure you subscribe to the channel, please. It goes a long way and allows me to continue to put out, Jets content that most of the audience seems to engage with the most out of anything I post. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jake Asman. John is on Twitter at John Sokoloff is where you could find him. So definitely check him out there. We'll do more of these leading up to the draft and should any other Jets news come down and unfold. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, spread the word, tune into the radio show weekdays, 9 to 11 Eastern, and we'll keep things going and keep having fun. So I hope you all have a great Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll talk soon. John, I appreciate you coming on, my friend. We'll do this again in a jiff.
Dude, definitely. Anytime.
All right. Have a good one, everyone. Talk to you on the radio tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time.